Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'll be doing a rules refresher for Trickerion. And specifically in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to play Dahlgaard's Academy expansion. Let's get rolling. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to teach you how to play the Dahlgaard's Academy expansion to Trickerion, and I will be primarily focusing on solo mode, but if you're playing at other player counts, you can use this video as well. Don't forget, I already have a rules refresher video for the regular solo mode without this expansion, so I'm assuming you know how to do that already. But if you don't, go check out that video first and then come back here. And then let me remind you that I will do a solo playthrough of Trickerion using the Academy expansion in a couple days. So if you don't want to miss that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if you found this helpful. I would appreciate it. And you can always make a contribution to the channel by heading over to my Ko-fi page. That's Ko-Fi. There's a link in the description, and I will thank all of my Ko-fi contributors at the end of this video. Finally, as usual, I've got chapter markers, so if you want to skip to a specific point in the video, go ahead and do that. So let's get started with setup. So I'm started to set up here as if I were the blue magician, so I've got some blue components here, and I've chosen the engineer as my specialist to start the game. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't set up. I'm really just focusing on what is relevant and new for the Academy expansion. So the first thing you'll notice is probably this Academy board, which I've got next to the main board here. Do note that in the top left corner, this is the 2 to 3 player side. There is a 4 player side on the back. If you are playing solo, you have one automated opponent, so it is still considered a 2-player game. And so on this Academy board, we've got 4 action spaces with a modifier of 2, 1, 1, and 0, so similar to the downtown and to the workshop and to the dark alley. Those spaces will work exactly as you expect them to. They allow you to take a number of actions here on the Academy board. We'll talk about the actions more in the gameplay. Right now we're just talking about setup. So go ahead and put the board down, and then depending on your player count, you're going to cover up some of these rooms. So these rectangles are all rooms. At the bottom here, the left side, the left column here is labeled classrooms, and these are practice rooms on the right. So go ahead and grab these roof tiles. We'll talk about all this other stuff in a moment, but you should have 4 roof tiles here. If you're playing on the 4-player side of the board, you'll notice that right here on the inside of these top 2 rectangles, these top ones are labeled A and these are labeled B. You will place tiles over A and B. If you are playing a 3-player game, you will only cover up the A tiles on this side of the board. You will leave the B's open. And if you're playing a 2-player game, which includes solo, you will cover up A and B on this side of the board. So it'll look something like this, exactly like this when you set up. So essentially in this setup, there are 2 classrooms available to build and 2 practice rooms available to build at the start of the game. And as the game progresses, these other rooms will open up. Now, at what point in the game will that be? Well, that'll be dictated by these 2 tokens that I've got here on the screen that say A and B, and they have you remove a tile. So if you're playing solo or 2 players or 4 players, you will put these here on the turn tracker, which I think of as a round tracker, but you'll put them on slots 4 and 6. Now, the rulebook doesn't specify that they have to go A first and then B, but that is how it's pictured in the setup picture. That's probably the way that I'll always do it. But if you go ahead and swap them and you put B before A, it probably won't be the end of the world. And if you were playing a 3-player game, you won't need the B. You'll just place the A token here on turn 5. But we're going to set up again for a solo game, 2 players. So we've got A and B on turns 4 and 6 on the turn tracker. Next, you're going to want to put all the classroom and practice room tiles near the Academy board so they're accessible. And these are separated into a couple of different piles here. So there's 6 piles. And so as you can see here, there are 3 piles for classrooms and 3 piles for practice rooms. And within each room type, the 3 piles correspond to the 3 different levels of tricks you can have based off your fame. So the level 1 tricks would be 1 star. And then on the right, this practice room has a star with 16. So it's level 2. And then the classroom tile on the left has a star at the bottom with 36. That is for level 3. So we will talk more about what these do later, but just separate them into those sorts of stacks. So for example, this is all the level 3 practice rooms. You don't really have to shuffle them because you'll be able to look at them later, but you can, I guess, shuffle them if you want. So I've got level 1 classrooms, level 1 practice rooms, level 2 classrooms, level 2 practice rooms, level 3 classrooms, level 3 practice rooms. Have those nearby. If you've got the anniversary edition like I do, which is nice, they're just all in this tray, so that is a handy way to store them. And we'll talk about more what those rooms do later, but in short, the practice rooms help you improve your tricks, and the classrooms help you turn your tricks into a passive income. The next thing we need to do is shuffle up these tiles here at the top. These are secrets, and so, whoopsie, I dropped them everywhere. They are in 2 stacks when you store them in this bin, but you just want them to be in 1 stack when you actually play the game. So go ahead, shuffle these all up and have 1 stack, or have some other method of keeping track of the stack. Whatever you want to figure out. But then you will take the top 2 secrets from that stack and place them face up here at the top of the Academy board. So this is where secrets go. We will talk about what those do later. Next, we need to take care of these special assignment decks. So this part is a little odd, but I'm just going to walk you through it. So each of the 4 stacks that we're used to, so special assignment decks for downtown, the market row, your workshop, and the theater respectively, there are now 2 new special assignment cards that come with the Academy. They have the Academy logo in the top right corner. So let's put one of those on the screen. You can see the Academy logo is the blue scroll in the top right corner, and that matches the icon as you'd expect here at the Academy. So for each of these stacks, there are 2 new cards. You're going to shuffle those into the respective stack. I'm not going to do that right now. Just pretend that these are each shuffled in. And the directions, the way they're written, say to, shuffle them into their decks and then place the decks as usual. And per the base game rulebook, the usual way you place these is face down. Then there is a new deck of special assignment cards for the Academy itself. And these, it says to shuffle up and place face up here in the dark alley. So that seems a little odd to me. I feel like they should either all be face down or all be face up. I know I've talked to some of you in the comments on previous videos about placing these face up, so you can kind of see what the first one on the top of the deck is, and it can reduce some downtime in AP. But I don't see anything about that in the booklets that I have from the anniversary edition. So if you think I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments. But unless I'm missing something, rules as written, this is how you set this up. Next up, we've got some new prophecy tokens for the Academy. And so there are actually 7 of them here. And so what you do is you take the prophecy tokens from the base game, mix them all up face down, randomly remove 7 without looking at them, add these 7, shuffle them up, and then, as usual, draw 3 of them at the start of the game. But I do want to point out this token here. If you are playing solo, remove this one. So you will only have 6 new tokens. So in that case, you should remove 6 random prophecy tokens from the base game and replace them with these 6 from the Academy that exclude this one. I will talk broadly about how the mechanics introduced in the Academy work, so things like classrooms and practice rooms. But if you're ever wondering about what do these specific rooms do, or the specific secret tokens, or the prophecy tokens, there is a new booklet with this expansion, the Academy Workbook, and it's kind of like a little glossary of all the new stuff that's in here. So if you're ever wanting to know that, go ahead and look through here. So each player should have, in addition to the normal player trick workbook, a copy of the Academy Workbook as well. There are 4 of these. Now, normally at the start of the game, each player starts with 5 fame, but when playing with the Academy, each player starts with 3 fame. So again, I'm the blue player. I'm setting up as if the automated opponent, the Heir, is going to be the yellow player. So we are both at 3. Now we need to start setting up our individual player areas. So as usual, each player picks a magician. The Academy comes with new artwork for all of the magicians. So again, use the cards that have the Academy icon in the top right corner. Most of them are the same, but 2 of them have been updated with their special abilities. That's the Master of Chains and the Priestess of Mysticism. So if you're playing with the Academy, you can use kind of whichever artwork you like for the original other 6. But for these 2, Priestess of Mysticism, Master of Chains, their ability has changed, and so you're definitely going to want to use the Academy cards. In addition, there are 4 new magicians, one from each school of magic, so Anjali, Geert van Augustin, Professor Bernard, and Luminia the Radiant. If you are playing with Professor Bernard, just know that his special ability is going to give you these extra tokens that have his face on the backside, so that player gets those tokens. If you are playing the solo mode, then let me just remind you that it doesn't matter if you're playing with or without the Academy, you always use the solo mode side of all these cards. So again, they've got that purple quill in the corner. So even if you are playing with the Academy, your opponent uses the card with the quill in the corner. You use the card with the Academy icon in the corner. And if your opponent is Professor Bernard, your automated opponent, they do not mess around with these tokens at all. So they're not going to need these. That's just for human players. So be aware of that. Then each player is going to get another sideboard, and that is this one here. That is the Protegé. So like all the other sideboards, it is double-sided. They are identical. It's just different artwork, so you can pick the side that you want. And you're going to place this beside your player board. Again, they're all the same, but everyone is going to start with a Protegé. And so the Protegé icon is here. It is this ring. So you've actually got a couple of Protegé tokens. This one has 1 action point. On the other side, it's 2 action points, and then there is another token with 3 action points. You're going to place your Protegé right here on the 1 action point side. You will have the opportunity to upgrade your Protegé as you play, and they get more action points and more abilities. And then if you're playing against the solo opponent, again, you're going to want to use the side of this board, not with the Dark Alley icon, but with the Academy icon. And the Academy icon side has 1 more worker spot. So you're going to go ahead and place the Magician as usual. Place the Protegé here on the Protegé icon with the 1 action point, and then 1 random specialist and 1 assistant. Oh no, this is the setup for easy mode. If you want to play on normal mode, you're going to add 1 more apprentice. And if you want to play on hard mode, instead of an apprentice, you'll slide this one down and place another random specialist. So on normal or hard, you will have 1 more worker. Then to each player's starting hand of assignment cards, which are again 2 theater cards and then 1 each of Workshop, Market Road, Downtown, and Dark Alley, you will add 1 assignment card for the Academy. Then each player will need a supply of these new banner tokens. There are 12 of them in total. So if I can flip some of them over here, you can see they've got a little flag on it, a little banner. These roll real nice. So each player will start with 12 of these, and that does include the solo opponent as well. I'm not going to keep these on screen, but just make sure everybody's got their 12 banner tokens. Next, each player will start with 2 additional coins, 2 more than usual. So if you have a 4-player game, the first player in initiative order will have 12 coins, second player will have 14, third player has 16, fourth player has 18. As normal in a solo game, your solo opponent, the Heir, starts with no coins. Then each player gains 1 extra trick marker, 1 for each suit, so you can have 5 of each suit now instead of 4. And each player also needs 4 Academy markers, again 1 in each suit. They look a lot like the trick markers, they're just a bit smaller. So you're going to have 1 of those in each suit per player. And then finally, for a solo game, you need to set up the assignment cards. So we're going to be using these with the Academy icon on the back instead of the Dark Alley. And these are going to be very similar, but there are 5 setup cards now and 4 performance cards instead of 4 and 4. So it's going to be very, very similar setups. You're going to shuffle up the perform cards, place 1 of them face down, then take 2 perform cards, 1 setup card, shuffle them together, and then eliminate 1 without looking at it. Place the 2 remaining ones next on the stack. Then you're going to want your 1 remaining perform card and 2 setup cards, and shuffle those. Keep all 3 of them, place them on the stack. And finally, this is the only difference. If you're playing without the Academy and you've got the other deck, you'd only have 1 card left as a setup card, and you would place it on top. Instead, you've got 2 cards left, so you shuffle these, place 1 on top, and discard the other without looking at it. So you still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards, and you can place those right over here, I suppose. You can place it anywhere, I guess, really nearby this board, wherever you want to store it. I'm not going to tell you where to keep your cards, but these will be the cards that assign the assignment cards for the Heir. So that's the only difference in setting those up, is really just using the other deck of cards, which of course sometimes but not always include assignments to the Academy, and then it has one more setup card than the previous deck had. And then one last small note before we get going, just like in these other areas, if you are playing a strictly 2-player game, you are going to do this 2 human players, cover up these 2 1-action slots in the Academy, just like you would at the other locations. If you're playing a 3-player game, cover up one of them, and in a 4-player game, they will all be available. But let's get into the gameplay. And the first step of each phase is, of course, the roll dice phase. And in the solo game, we've got these turn setup dice. So there's one more die here for the Academy. So when you roll, you're going to roll that one as well the first time. Set up all the blocking stuff as you normally would. And when you do this for the Academy on the first round of the game, take that setup die and place it here under these classrooms. I'll explain why in a moment. You place the others, wherever you would normally place them. Block whatever spaces you need to block according to the dice. I've already gone over this in another solo video. But then in round 2, you pick any 2 dice that you want, or you pick any 2 dice that you want and re-roll them. So let's just say we re-rolled these 2, right? Then you place these markers under them as normal, so you've got your new blockers. And now, at the beginning of every turn, from turn 3 onward, then you re-roll 2 dice, but you can't pick the ones with the tokens under them. And from turn 3 onward, if the theater die ever does not have a token under it, you must re-roll that as one of your 2 re-rolls. So that decision space is a little bit more interesting now at the Academy, because you're going to have 2 that you cannot select, potentially 1 you must select, and then you still have a choice, and the other one is not going to be re-rolled. And then regardless of what you re-roll, on turn 2, after re-rolling is done, whether the Academy has been re-rolled or not, move the die over here to the other side, to the practice room side. And so every round, you're just going to move this back and forth so that in odd numbered turns, it's going to be here on the classroom side, and the even numbered turns, it's going to be here on the practice room side. I will describe the madness behind that method in a minute, but it's just a useful reminder. So let's really talk about the action phase now and what you can do here at the Academy. So as normal, and as you would expect, you can place one of your workers here and they get whatever their action points are plus the action points of the slot. And then there are a number of spaces here, or a number of actions they can take here. So these 2 actions for classroom and practice room, these are variable. We'll talk about those in a moment. We have the Renovate action here, which costs 2. We have this action up top to gain a secret. That costs 2 action points, and then 1 action point to refill 1 empty secret spot. And like the other standard locations, you may one time spend a Trickerion shard to gain 1 extra action point. So let's tackle these actions one at a time, starting with this one here, Renovate, for 2 action points. So in a nutshell, the Renovate action allows you to fill one of these empty slots, one of these empty room slots with the room of that respective type. So you can either build a classroom or you can build a practice room. And so slots covered with these roof tiles are considered blocked. They're not available. You can't build there. And then once the turn tracker gets to that respective marker here on the track, you will remove either the A or B. These are actually the B's. The A's are further away, but I can't reach. So you'd remove the 2 B's, for example, when you get to round 6, and then these 2 spaces become available to build on. So the Academy will grow over the course of the game with more room slots. Now, once you've built a room on one of these spaces, it's there for the rest of the game. It cannot be replaced. So to take the Renovate action and build a room, first you're going to select one of the empty room spaces with no closed room tile on it. So that's the roof tile. And so each of these has a coin to fame ratio printed on it, and each one has a fame threshold beside it. So let's just look at this practice room right here for a minute. So it says level 1. So if you've got at least 1 fame, where everybody starts at 3, if you've got at least 1 fame, you can spend 5 coins to gain 2 fame. If you have at least 16 fame, so level 2, you can spend 7 coins to get 5 fame. And if you have at least 36 fame, so if you're at level 3, you can spend 9 coins to gain 9 fame. So you can access any of these that you meet the fame threshold for. And so let's say I have 40 fame, so I have access to all 3 tiers. I can pick any one of those tiers, pay the amount of coins it says. You've got to be able to pay the full amount and then gain the fame associated with it. And then as an aside, as usual with this game, let's say I have 15 fame. You may, if you don't meet that threshold, you can still choose that option so long as you pay the difference between your fame and the threshold in coins. So if I had 15 fame, I'd pay 1 coin to meet the threshold and then another 7 coins to take the action. I would gain 5 fame. And if you can't pay the full amount, then you can't select that threshold. So if I only have 8 coins, but I've got 40 fame, I cannot select this bottom one and just pay 8 coins for 8 fame. You don't get to divide it that way. You've got to pay the full amount and then you gain the full reward. Now, once you've made your choice and you've paid your cost and then you've gained your reward, you are also going to select the appropriate stack that matches what you picked. So this side is practice rooms. And if we picked the middle tier, so level 2, minimum of 16 fame, then we're going to go to that stack of tiles and take it in hand. And so you take this whole stack and you can look through it and you select the one that you want to place. So that's why they don't need to be shuffled, because every time somebody builds one of these, they get to just look at everything that's there. So there shouldn't be any surprises. So you pick the one that you want and place it in that space face up, and then the rest of the stack just goes face down back to the side of the board. And I think this should be clear, but in case I didn't state it earlier, this right-hand side, you can only build practice rooms here, and the left-hand side, you can only build classrooms here. But either way, it is the Renovate action that allows you to build a room. And then the last step is to consult this little chart here. You figure out what turn we're on, what round on the turn tracker, and depending on what round it is or what turn it is, we're going to place banners beside the room that we just built. So if you were in turn 1 or 2, you place 4 banners. If you were in turn 3 or 4, you place 3 banners. Turn 5 or 6, 2 banners. And if you were in the last turn of the game, turn 7, you only place 1 banner. So for demonstration's sake, let's say we were in turn 3, then I would place 3 of my banners beside that room. Now, if a player places their last available banner, then every other player returns one of their banners from their supply to the box. And if a player has no more in their supply either, then they just don't return anything to the box. But that's important because you can only take this Renovate action if you have at least 1 banner left. Now, what's the point of that? Well, really just at the end of the game, the more banners that you have, the better your opportunity to score some points. So we'll talk about that more when we get to endgame scoring. So next up, let's talk about this practice action here. So this one has a variable action cost. It is going to be between 1 and 3. And practice rooms are used to improve your existing tricks. And to demo this, let's put a couple tricks here on my board. So let's say that I've got Stocks, Escape, and Zigzag Lady. And we'll put a club and a heart on them respectively. So when you take this practice action, you're going to pick one of your tricks. And let's say that I pick this one, Stocks, Escape, which has the club. You are going to take the Academy marker with the matching suit and place it in one of the practice rooms. So let's say that I just put that right there. That's what these slots are for. This trick is now considered to be quote unquote in a practice room. So here's how that all works. The action point cost is equal to the level of the trick that you're choosing. So to do Stocks Escape, that's a level 1 trick, that would cost 1 action point. If I had instead chosen Zigzag Lady, that is a level 2 trick, so it would have cost 2 action points to put that in a practice room. Now it is possible when you take this practice room action, if your Academy marker for that trick is already in a practice room, you can move it to a different spot in another practice room or within the same practice room, but any empty practice room slot, you can move it. Now, it's likely when you're playing with the Academy that at some point you're going to have some classrooms built as well, so let's go ahead and put one of them there. What you are not ever allowed to do is take, when you take the practice action, you cannot take your Academy marker from a trick that is in a classroom and move it over to the practice side. That is not allowed. So you can take a trick that's not in the Academy at all, and you can place it in a practice room, or you can take a trick that's already in any practice room slot and move it to any other empty practice room slot, but not from a classroom to a practice room. Now, in order to place a trick in a practice room, you do not need to meet its component requirements. And in some cases, it may be beneficial to place your trick in a practice room when you don't meet its component requirements yet. Because, of course, you don't need to meet the requirements to gain the trick. You just need to meet the requirements in order to set up the trick. And then the last thing to note is at any time, you may decide to take a trick from a practice room and remove it from the practice room entirely. The only time you'd really want to do that is if you are making room to put a different trick marker in that same space. So each of these spaces has a bonus next to it in the practice room. And as long as the token is next to that bonus icon, it applies to that trick. So on this particular tile, there's two options here. The top one is you may lower this trick's component requirement by one basic, advanced, or superior component of your choice. So basically ignore one component. So that's why you may want to do that before you meet its component requirements. And this other bonus that's on the tile that we happen to select, this one here, says that when you place this trick's marker on a performance card, the corner corresponding to the trick's category does not have to be in a link circle. So in other words, the trick marker can just be oriented freely. So that's pretty cool. So the bonus is in effect so long as the trick marker's token is next to it. And again, there's a detailed list of all the bonuses in the Academy workbook. So that is the practice action. Now let's go across the hall to the classrooms and talk about the teach action. So this one also has a variable action point cost, and it's a similar type of action where you're going to take your Academy marker corresponding to one of your tricks, and you're going to place it in one of the empty slots in a classroom. And so just as before, the action point cost corresponds to the level of the trick you're interacting with. So again, a level 1 trick like Stock Escape would cost 1 action point. If I wanted to put Zigzag Lady, which is a level 2 trick in the classrooms, then that would be a 2 action point cost. So let's say that I am doing that. Let's put Zigzag Lady in this spot right here, and that costs me 2 action points. So that trick is now considered to be in a classroom. Now the rules are slightly different than practice rooms. So you can of course put a new trick marker there. You can move them from one classroom slot to another classroom slot, and you may move from a practice room to a classroom. So you can go across the hall in this case, but you may not, once a trick marker is in a classroom, you may not freely remove it. It's going to be in a classroom spot somewhere. Again, you can move it between classroom spots, but it will be in a classroom spot somewhere for the rest of the game. So thematically, what's happening here is the practice rooms are, rooms where you can go practice your trick, makes them a little better. That's why you get some sort of bonus for the trick. The classrooms, you are teaching new magicians how to do your trick, and so you're going to lose the ability to perform the trick. And so that's why you can take a trick that you've been practicing and you can move it to a classroom. But once something's in the classroom, you can never unteach it. So you can't put it back in a practice room and you can't freely remove it. Now, there is one more requirement for placing a trick in the classroom. In order to do that, in order to place a trick on a classroom slot, you have to meet one of two requirements, or both. You either have to meet the trick's component requirements, or you have to have at least one trick marker on the trick. If neither of those is true, you cannot put the trick in the classroom. Now, there is one other sort of sneaky bonus here that's only in the classrooms. So we've got our level 1, level 2, and level 3 classrooms, and they also have a corresponding matching bonus. So this is a level 1 classroom, and it says 1 fame threshold of 1, 2 fame. What that is saying is if you place a trick marker or an academy marker for a trick in that classroom and the trick level matches the classroom level, then you also gain that bonus. So if I put Stocks Escape, which is a level 1 trick, into this level 1 classroom, I gain 2 fame. If I put Zigzag Lady, which is a level 2 trick, into this level 1 classroom, I do not gain the 2 fame because the level of the trick and the classroom do not match. Now, one small errata to note: if you place your worker in one of these academy spaces and they've got a bunch of action points, each trick token you may only move one time. So each trick token can only be moved one time per assignment. Or maybe put more clearly, this teach action may only be moved or may only be used on each token once per assignment. So whether you're placing it or moving it, you can only do it once for each token per assignment. So if you've got basically a ton of action points, you can't just place this token here to get the bonus and then let's say I place the club and I get that bonus and then have another action point, move it and gain the bonus. You can't keep going back and forth. So you can only put it down or move it one time per placement. It's a pretty minor clarification, but just in case. Now, a couple things happen to your tricks once they're in the classroom. Once a trick's marker is in a classroom, it can no longer be prepared in the workshop, so you can't put any more trick markers on it. But if it has any on it at the time that it goes into the classroom, any trick markers that are there remain. And if it's got any trick markers on any of the performance cards, those will remain as well, at least for now. And then if the trick is ever discarded, so you ever return it to the market, to Dahlgaard's residence up at the top of the board there, so if you ever get rid of the trick, then all of its markers on the Academy will be removed as well. So I'll come back to how the classrooms affects the performance phase a little bit later. But we still need to talk about these two actions here. So the one on the left is Learn Secret, and that one costs 2 action points. So when you take that action, you take either one of the face-up tiles, assuming there are 2 there. You take a face-up tile and you place it on the bottommost slot on your Protegé board. So you see there's 3 slots here on your Protegé board. So let's say I take this one, place it on the bottommost empty slot. You also have the option when you take one of those, if I took another one, I could place it on this, which is my bottommost empty slot now, or I may replace any tile that I currently have. And when a tile is replaced, it is removed from the game. You just bring it back to the box. So each one of these secret tiles that goes on your Protegé board is going to unlock some sort of new ability, and those are all in the Academy Player Aid book again. But here are some other interesting notes. The Protegé at first starts out with only 1 action point and costs 0 wages. Their wages are 0. Once they've got 1 trick in this bottommost slot, their wages become 1, and that is effective immediately. So at the end of this round, when they return, you're going to have to pay them that wage. When they fill up the second slot, their wages go up to 2, but now they gain a second action point. So you flip your Protegé over to this side immediately, and now they're worth 2 action points. Now, if you happen to do that while you are playing with the Protegé and you flip them over at that time, at the time you placed them, they only had so many action points. So those are the ones you're spending. That doesn't give you an additional action point right now. But you do not have to have your Protegé be the one to take that action and gain the secret. So I can send, say, an engineer here and gain a secret to then place on my Protegé, flip them over, and now use my Protegé on a future turn within this same round, and they've got more action points now. So that is actually probably a pretty good idea, something you want to do. And then when you get to this third secret slot, the wage is going to remain 2, but then you replace the token entirely with this other token, which now has 3 action points. And just kind of a fun thing here, the ring on the tile gets a little bit bigger each time you upgrade the Protegé, so that's kind of fun. Now, importantly, this icon here has a 1x over it, similar to the using a Trickerion chart has a 1x, meaning that once per placement, like each time you send a worker here, you can only gain a secret 1 time. You can't take that multiple times with the same character placement. Now, you could send 2 characters there and each time take one of those secrets in the same round. And then interestingly, when a secret is learned, you do not replace it. The slot remains empty. So that gets us to our last action here, which only costs 1 action point, and that is discover new secrets. So to take that action, there must be at least 1 empty slot here. You pay 1 action point to take a secret from the top of the stack and place it in one of the empty spaces. So if you're playing a 3 or 4 player game and 2 other players come here before you and take those other tokens, then if you want to learn a secret, you're going to have to spend an extra action point to refresh it, and maybe spend another action point to refresh the second spot, so you have some sort of choice between what it is, and then spend 2 action points to gain one of them. So those are all of the actions, all the new actions here at the Academy. And so now let me detail, if you're playing against the solo opponent, how they determine what kind of actions they're going to take. And again, I am assuming you know how to use the solo opponent for all of the other types of actions. So I'm going in with that assumption, and playing when they go to the Academy, it is very similar to when they go to the downtown in terms of their decision-making tree. So as usual with the Heir, when they place a character in the Academy, you've got to determine how many actions they'll take based off how many action points and the difficulty. And there's a little chart, but it'll be between 1 and 3 actions. And I will show you the chart at the end end of this little segment. And so then there's a priority list of actions, again, just like the downtown, where you're going to take the first action available, and then if you need to take another action, you will pick up from the next one on the list. You won't start the list over, and you'll keep going through the list until you either get to the end or you run out of actions. So the first thing is, you can see here on the Heir's board, they've got 2 spaces for secrets. We've got 3, but they've got 2. And so the first thing is, if they've got fewer than 2 secrets, they're going to take one. And if 2 secrets are still available on the Academy board, then you're going to flip a coin to determine whether to take the top or the bottom one. And so you're going to place it in the bottommost space, just like you would your own, and then flip or replace the Protegé character disc as needed to have either 2 or 3 action points. Now, luckily, the actual ability on the secret tile doesn't matter at all. It's not going to interact with that in any way. So you can even, if you want to, place it face down so it doesn't confuse you. That's an option you have if that's going to bother you, but you don't have to worry about what the ability says. It won't use it. It just affects how many action points the Heir's Protegé will have. So that's the first thing we'll do. If it has fewer than 2 of these secrets, it will take one. Next, if it does not have more banners than you, so if it has equal as many banners or fewer on the Academy board, and it has at least 1 banner left, and there is at least 1 empty room slot available, then it will take this Renovate action. So when it takes the Renovate action, first it's going to check how many coins does it have. How many coins does the Heir have? If it has 0 to 4 coins, so if it has less than 5, it will pick the cheapest option available where it has enough fame. So we'll assume, we've got 3 fame right now, so it has more than 1 fame, so it can do the first tier, and then this is 6 coins, and this is 3 coins. So this one is the cheapest, so that's the action it would pick, 3 coins for 1 fame. Now if it has 5 coins or more, it will instead pick the most expensive renovation where its fame exceeds the fame threshold for the renovation. So if they were at level 2, say they had 25 fame, well, level 2 over here, it costs 4 coins. It would cost 8 coins over here. So if they had 5 coins or more, they'd pick the most expensive. That would be this one here, which costs 8. So then they score the fame associated with the renovation that they've chosen. And to be clear, in that last example, they can choose that one that costs 8, even though they only have 5 coins, and they would get the 7 fame for it. And then they would place a random room tile from the appropriate stack. So this stack would be let's say they had 1 fame, it'd be a level 1 practice room, or in this example, I was saying they were at level 2, it would be like a level 2 classroom. So you take the associated deck, shuffle it up, pick one at random, place it, and then place their banners beside the room following exactly the same rules you do for placing banners. And that means if they place their last banner, you've got to discard 1 banner if you have any left. And after all that, they discard 9 coins from their purse, or as many coins as they have if they have fewer than 9, regardless of which option they picked. So again, the actual printed cost of the renovation does not matter for the Heir. They just need to follow that logic to pick either the cheapest or most expensive based off of whether or not they have 5 coins or more, or if they have fewer than 5 coins, and then gain the associated fame for the selected threshold, and then discard 9 coins or as many as they have, if they have fewer than 9. Now, if they're going through the selection logic and there are multiple rooms to select that are all the cheapest option or all the most expensive option, in whichever case, if it's a tie, if it is an odd numbered turn, so 1, 3, 5, or 7, they will select a classroom, whereas if it is an even numbered turn, 2, 4, or 6, they will select a practice room. So that's part of the reason I suggest placing this die, just moving it back and forth when you're rolling die at the beginning of each round, just so you remember what the priority is. In the event that it is still a tie, then they will select from top room to bottom. So again, priority 1 is gain a secret. Priority 2 is renovate. Priorities 3 and 4 again, will swap based off of it if it is an odd or even numbered round. So if it is an odd numbered round, 1, 3, 5, or 7, their next priority will be to take the teach action in a classroom. And if it is an even numbered round, 2, 4, or 6, their third priority will be to use a practice room. Then their fourth priority will be to use the opposite room. So again, odd numbered rounds, they're going to first take secrets, then renovate, then they'll prefer to take the teach action and then to take the practice action. Whereas if it's an even number round, priority 1 is gain a secret, priority 2 is renovate, priority 3 is to take a practice action, priority 4 is to take a teach action in a classroom. So good reason to just use the die to keep track of those priorities. So let's say it's round 1, it's an odd numbered round, and priority 3 is to take the teach action in a classroom. So if the heir has one or more tricks where their academy marker is still available, so it's not in a practice room or a classroom, and there is at least one open classroom slot, we'll say that there is, then if multiple tricks are available to be placed in the classroom, they will take the rightmost and they'll work their way from the right side. And then of the available classroom tiles, they will choose the one with the highest fame level associated with it that has an open slot. And among those slots, they will pick the first available one from the top down. Now, unlike a human player, let's say that this was a level 1 trick and it goes here, and this is a level 1 classroom. The heir does not gain that matching bonus where a human player would. So it doesn't matter what level their trick is and what level the room is. They're just going to place a token and they never gain that bonus. Now let's talk about the practice action for the heir. So if the heir has one or more tricks not present in any classroom or practice room, and there's an available practice room slot, they will place one Tricks Academy marker in an available practice room slot. If multiple tricks are available, in this case, they will start with their leftmost trick and then work their way to the right. And then if multiple practice room slots are available, they'll pick one with the highest fame threshold again, just like they did for classrooms. And then they'll prefer the top open slot over the bottom open slot, but they will ignore any slots that decrease preparation costs. So like this space, for example, decreases the component cost. So they would ignore that spot and instead take this. There are also some practice rooms that decrease action point values. So they would ignore those spots as well. And there are also practice rooms that have a bonus that allows you to gain +1 trick when you set up that trick. And if the heir happens to take one of those spots, then they immediately gain that trick marker on the associated trick. Now, after they've gone through all those actions, if they've still got action points to spend, they will continue to go back and forth between their priority 3 and priority 4. So classrooms and practice rooms, and they'll keep going until they spend all their action points. Now, if they can't, because there are just no more empty places, then they will back up and they will go back to the renovate action, and they will take that action even if they have more banners than you in order to add another room, and then they will continue down through the list through priority 3 and 4, placing tokens in that room until they run out of action points. Now, I know that was a lot, but here, as promised, I will show you the player aid for the Academy, so you can see that on the right hand side here. So depending on easy, normal, or hard mode and how many action points they have from 1 to 5, or if they somehow have more than 5, then just treat that as 5 or more. They will take X amount of action. So if you're playing on say easy mode and they have 3 action points, they will take 1 academy action. If you're playing on normal mode and they have 3 action points, they'll take 2 actions. If you're playing on hard mode and they have 5 action points to spend, they will take 3 academy actions. And you can see there's a quick reference below it. It says preferences. First, they'll learn a secret if they have less than 2 secrets. Then they'll renovate if they have equal to or fewer banners than you. Then, if they have 0 to 4 coins, they'll do the cheapest renovation action they can, and with 5 or more coins, they'll do the most expensive. Then, their third priority is to teach, if able. Their fourth priority is to practice, if able. And then on even turns, the practice comes before teach. So that's what that looks like. So that's it for the action phase. Now we need to talk about a new phase, and that is the classroom phase. And this happens after the performance phase and before the end turn phase. So this is when you're able to gain the benefits from your tricks that are in classrooms. So there's 2 steps to this phase. Step 1 is if a trick in a classroom still has trick markers in the theater and or in the workshop, remove those trick markers and place them back in your personal supply. So because trick markers are only removed from the game during the classroom phase, you can still perform tricks that are in classrooms if you are doing it on the turn that they were placed in the classroom. After that performance phase, you're going to go to the next classroom phase, remove them from any theaters, remove them from the cards. Remember, you cannot put tricks on cards once they're in a classroom. So at that point, like, you've kind of taught your trick, and too many people out there know it, and then you can no longer perform it. So then the second step is, in player order, each player receives the yields for their tricks that are in classrooms. And so most of these classroom slots are going to have some sort of modifier to the yield of your trick. And again, those are all detailed in the player aid books. And so if we look at this bottom one here, there is it just says 1 star. And so it means whatever trick is in that slot, you're going to, at that time in the classroom phase, gain the fame that that trick gives you. And then you will not, there's X's under that, you won't gain the coins, you won't gain any shards. The one on top of that, it says you'll gain the fame -1, the coins -1, always to a minimum of 0, and then no shards at all. So if I had this trick, the zigzag lady, in that slot, this normally gives you 2 fame, 3 coins, no shards. During the classroom phase, it would give me 1 fame and 2 coins passively without it being performed. So as you can imagine, those benefits get better. That's a level 1 room. They get better in the higher numbered or the higher level rooms. And importantly, if you have anyone in the theater over here, the Thursday and Sunday slots, those modifiers do not apply over here to the Academy. It's just what is the modifier on the Academy card and what is your trick associated with that icon. Now, when you're playing solo in that classroom phase, the Heir receives the trick's full yield regardless of any modifiers shown on the classroom spots. It just gets the full yield, whatever's printed on the tricks. And its trick markers are not removed from the theater or from the trick. So it gets to keep performing its tricks even while they're in the classroom. So, it's a good day to be a bot. So after the classroom phase is complete, we go to the end turn phase. And so I've already mentioned this a bit, but when you move the turn counter onto a space with one of these tokens, whatever letters on that token, A or B, remove the 2 blockers from the A rooms, which are the 2 top ones, or the B rooms, whatever's associated with that token. And then there's also a new end turn step. Whatever secrets are still here in the Academy during the end turn phase, you discard them and replace them with 2 new ones. Now, the discarded ones are placed on the bottom of the stack, as opposed to if you have a secret and you choose to replace it, the replaced secret is removed from the game. So anything that's still out there at the end of the turn goes on the bottom of the stack and you fill the 2 slots. And I don't know if the timing is all that important, but technically this has been added after the discard special assignment cards phase. So when you get rid of any used special assignment cards, those all go away, and then you take the reveal secrets action step or end turn step. So we have finally come to the end of the game, and we need to figure out how to score this thing up now. There are 2 small changes to how you figure out your maximum score. The first is that the maximum fame that you can score for leftover shards, coins, special assignment cards, and each level 3 trick is limited to 20 fame in each category. Now, if you have the anniversary edition, this has already been retroactively changed in the rule books for the base game. So this change only takes effect if you're playing like an older version of Trickerion. In those original versions, there was no such limitation. Otherwise, if you're playing a newer version, then that's already been the case, so it's not really a change at all. The other thing you need to know about is that when you're playing with the Academy, when you're checking the endgame trick bonuses of any level 3 tricks, in order to score them, you have to either meet that trick's component requirement or have at least 1 trick marker on them. So if you've got a trick with no trick markers on it and you don't meet its component requirements, you cannot score it. And finally, as promised, you do get some points for whoever has the most banners. So let me put this up on the screen. You can see on the right-hand side in the blue outline, if you are playing a 2-player game, whoever has the most banners gains 8 fame. If you're playing a 3-player game, whoever has the most gains 12, second most gains 6, and in a 4-player game, first, second, and third gain 15, 10, and 5 fame respectively. And then in the case of a tie, all the tied players scored the lower amount. So for example, if it's a 4-player game and the number of banners are 3, 3, 2, and 1, the players would score 10, 10, 5, and 0 fame respectively. And if it is a 2-player game or a solo game against the automated opponent, then no fame is scored in the event of a tie. And important to call out, a player has to have placed at least 1 banner in order to score any fame during this step. So you can't all be tied for 0. So that is it. Finally, I've taught the Dahlgaard's Academy expansion for Trickerion. It took me probably as long to record this rules video as it would have taken me to play it. But speaking of, as I mentioned at the beginning, I am going to do a solo playthrough playing with Dahlgaard's Academy expansion. So if you'd like to see that, it'll be out in a couple days. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Leave a like here if you found this helpful. It also lets me know that you're interested in Trickerion. I've still got the Arcane Arts expansion that I'd like to cover, and I'm considering playing a solo playthrough using all of the Trickerion expansions simultaneously. So depending on how many people seem interested in my Trickerion videos tells me whether or not I should do that. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or if you think I've made any errors. And don't forget, you can hype the video, you can share it with somebody you'd like to play the Academy expansion with. You can find it over on Board Game Geek, leave a like and a comment over there. You can also pick up a Table for One micro badge. You can leave a super thanks. You can pick up some merch. I've got some new merch available. And as always, you can head over to my Ko-fi page like all of these folks here on the screen did. So on Ko-fi, you can make a contribution to Table for One for as little as $1. That can be one time or recurring monthly. For all my active monthly contributors, you will get your name in this reserved seating section here at Table for One in all of my videos. And if you're feeling competitive, you can try and get to the top of the head of the table list. That is the top 10 contributors over the last 90 days. I also sometimes get a little experimental with my Ko-fi contributors and try and do things like polls over on my Ko-fi page that are available to anyone who has contributed. So I don't have a lot of extra stuff over there because I want to keep everything free and available for all at the same time. I don't want anything locked behind a paywall, but I'm trying my best to find some perks like that. If you'd like to head over to my Ko-fi page, then you can participate. But thank you to everyone who has helped Table for One through my Ko-fi page. I really appreciate it. But that's what I've got for this video. I hope you found it helpful. I look forward to playing the Academy against the solo Heir and putting that up here on the channel. I hope you come back to watch it, and I will see you then. Have a good one.